Bloody Mary.
You're drinking a Bloody Mary?
I'm drinking a Bloody Mary. It's a Bloody Mary kind of day. Go ahead and speak.
Well, I'm
Hi.
waiting for. Welcome, everyone, and it's the Vinyl Community Guncles. This time we're doing a top 5 of The Cure. I'm Robert Fitton, along with Richard from Calvin Wazoo, Mike from Hub Tunes, and ladies and gentlemen, the man who has all of The Cure on vinyl. Yes, even the self-titled one. All on vinyl. It's and he just got the picture disc for the live Paris one too. I'm wearing orange, by the way, in show for The Cure in orange. But anyway, we are doing the our favorite top 5 albums from The Cure as we go around and discuss. Will any of us have later day Cure albums on there? Will we all have the same number one? We'll just have to find out. Let's start off with the person who probably knows more about The Cure than the other three, and that would be Craig from Craig's Vinyl Plethora.
Hi.
Hi, Craig.
Hi. Welcome to me. So yeah, this is fun.
Yeah.
Where do I begin? I mean, I've been listening to The Cure since I don't know when. I was obsessed with them growing up. I still am. Anything, I have to have it. And going through this, when we decided to kind of spice things up and do this different take of our 5 favorite albums of a certain artist, I have always had my idea in my mind of what my favorite Cure albums were. And when we did this, I did it in a whole different area, like direction. I was like, okay, these are how many songs I like. I did like, I'll like mathematically, like this is speaking, blah, blah, blah. And I actually surprised myself. And since I was in the 8th grade, I've said, this is my favorite Cure album. And I can't say that's, yeah. Okay. So my 5 is actually a tie though, because it was like neck and neck, like exactly the same amount of tracks. So Pornography is half of 5. Pornography came out in 1982. It was their third studio album. I have like it's on red. Look at that.
Oh, nice.
Mine's smaller than everyone's again.
I think one, yeah, a little bit smaller there, but
shiny.
I've noticed like on a lot of these albums that the opening tracks, like they are either the best or the worst. It's just like I don't know if there's any like in between or a hit or miss. But 100 Years, I mean, the album starts off with "It Doesn't Matter If We All Die," and that really takes you in the direction of what this record is. It is probably their darkest record, in my opinion. I'm like, sorry, I should have been a little bit more prepared, but it's so moody and it's just so what I need. So for me, you know what I'm saying? That's all I have to say about Pornography. Sorry, but it's half. This one actually surprised me that it was in my top 5 at all, because I constantly say it's not the worst like Cure album, but I don't think it's their best. And I get really annoyed that people say it's their best, but it is really, really good. And it's Disintegration. And another one, the opening track with that melodic, just very like ethereal, like plain song, and how you're almost like 4 minutes in the song before Robert even opens his mouth. And it's got some of their biggest, love songs.
Mine's the smallest again.
Yeah, the smallest, yeah. I still need to get an original pressing of this. This is the reissue.
Yeah, that's the one I have.
Of course, the original one is missing 2 tracks, but I don't care. I still want one, and I will have one someday. Yeah, I'll even settle for the terrible picture disc that they did, but maybe I won't settle with that. But I just want something.
You'll never play it.
Yeah, probably. I don't know if I. Well, I don't know. Um, God, where do I go with Disintegration? Yeah, Plain Song, such an open, and then Untitled. What a great
Mhm.
closer! Like,
Yeah.
I don't. There's songs I don't really care for as much as the other on here. Like, Last Dance is kind of okay. Like, I listen to it. It's not one of my favorites. Close Down is kind of like I really enjoy it, but it's not. It's the songs, Fascination Street, which was, I believe, the first single off this. You have Prayers for Rain, Saying Deep Water as you. The whole tail end of the record, Disintegration, Homesick, and Untitled, that's just, it's fucking brilliant. So yeah, there. As we move forward, maybe I'll get my bearings, and I probably started drinking these too soon. But, yeah, so there you have it. That's number 5, pornography/disintegration. Maggie?
Well, this was fun because I hadn't listened to a lot of Cure, and it had been a while since I put on a Cure record. Um, yeah, I have a bunch of Cure. We reviewed, what was it, 17 Seconds?
Yeah.
We did a review of that, which is a great record. It probably would be my number 6. I really, really enjoy it, Robert. And Robert's going to love this, too. I dig this record. I think this is Faith. This is a UK pressing. I believe it's a UK pressing. Absolutely. It's probably not their most popular, but I just love this era of the Cure. It's dark. I mean, at the Holy Hour opens it up. All Cats Are Gray. The Funeral Party opens up side 2. I love that. The Drowning Man and the title track. I really dig Faith. I know it's not. There's no hits on here, but that's kind of my jam when it comes to the. I'm sorry.
Primary's on it, right?
Yeah, second song.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I guess that was it. Yeah,
Primary was one of the singles, and that was one of the,
it's probably the first
definitely
song.
a live track that they do. Yeah, Funeral Party is up there in my definitely probably
I love
top
it.
10 favorite.
Great song. Great song. And I had, like I said, I hadn't put this record on. It's been years since I played this, and I'm probably going to play it when we're done doing this video tonight. I'm really, really getting back into this record. Love it. So that would be my number 5.
I remember the cassette for Faith. They paired it with something called Carnage Visors, which was just a long instrumental thing.
And it was actually a soundtrack for a film.
Right, and that seems to have fallen by the wayside. You can't get that on vinyl or.
So
I
actually have it on vinyl.
I'm a goddamn liar, obviously.
Yeah. No, there was I don't remember. They did like these deluxe CD sets, like and it was on that, and I happened to actually find a vinyl version of that, and so it's got a bunch of live stuff on it, but I think the second side of the second disc is all Carnage Visors.
I have to check that. And that's the thing about their CD releases always have so many awesome hidden tracks and B-sides. And when I saw them live, probably 8 or 9 years ago now, they did the B-sides and rarities tour. And they played a few hits. They sprinkled hits in, obviously. But the whole thing was basically like obscure B-sides and stuff.
I would have loved
my God.
Their formats seem to have, they don't ever really match up. Like Craig was saying about Disintegration, there was cassette and CD bonus tracks that were not on the original album. When they released the Kiss Me, not to get ahead of ourselves, but when they released the Kiss Me album on CD to begin with, they had to leave off a track so they could make it a single CD. Just talked about the cassette for Faith and Carnage Visors, which at least at that time, that was the only way you could get Carnage Visors. They had the Boys Don't Cry thing, which is totally different on cassette than it is on CD, than it is on album. They had the Staring at the Sea, Standing on the Beach, which had the cassette, had all the B-sides. The album didn't, the CD didn't. Their formats do not line up usually at all.
No. It's one band I would really suggest getting. I mean, even if you're not into CD, the CDs are worth buying. You know, just for all the great.
A band that really needs a box set.
Right?
Well, they
I was thinking the exact same thing.
They did a box set of their B-sides called Join the Dots, which was CD. I would love to see that get a vinyl release. I don't
Was
know
that
if
a box set or
Yeah.
was that just like a double
it was
CD?
4 discs.
Oh wow.
It was four
And it
discs.
was just CDs.
It was just CDs. Yeah. I don't think
I've
they did
never
it
seen that.
that. Yeah. It's got
That would be great.
all the B-sides, and
That
it's
was
got
the only way to
demos.
get "I'm Cold" on a CD for a long time.
Mm.
But going
Well,
back to full
yeah.
albums, my number 5, it's a tie because I just could not decide. Now, originally, I thought it would be Disintegration at number 5. This was the first Cure album that I'd heard upon its release. This was when I was way into The Cure in 1989. I had discovered them through a friend who had let me borrow their videotape of standing on a beach or staring at the sea. I don't remember which the videotape is called, but I
I
used to watch
believe it's
those
called
videos
Staring at the Sea.
over and over. And then after the videos, I got my own. Well, I got the cassette. I talked about this, which has all the B sides and all the hits.
That
and
has to be
everything.
one of the most popular best ofs of all time.
Yeah.
Everyone in high school in the '80s had that either
Well,
on
the high
CD or
school that I
cassette.
went to in Steeltown, Granite City, we were a very. I mean, this was a huge high school with like a graduating class of like 800 and some.
Oh
But the
wow!
Cure people were a very small group. So I hear these stories about like the John Hughes type Chicago high schools where everybody's into the Cure, and I definitely
Oh,
did not
everyone.
go to a high school like that. In fact, there was a guy who was so into he was a super Cure fan. He only would wear his Cure shirt to play practice at night. You know,
Oh,
because you get beat up if you wear that in the daytime. But
I think in my high school, and I'm one of the John Hughes Chicago suburb high schools. I think every girl in my class had that greatest hits, and every guy had Disintegration and Pornography and that whole run of records. But
right.
every girl, we played that at the beach. It was in everybody's cassettes, players in their cars. It was everywhere.
But the reason I had to do a tie is because, before I really investigated some of their later albums, I was sure that this was going to be, number 5 and that was it. But this has some really great highlights, like Craig said, Fascination Street and Same Deep Water as You, and there's a few other tracks on here. But it also is a really low point because we were so ready for this to come out. And I remember hearing
mhm.
Love Song and Pictures of You specifically and just being like, what the hell? What the hell is this? Love Song sounds like something. Whenever I'm alone with you, you make me feel like I'm young again. Sounds like something
Yeah.
Johnny Mathis would sing. And we all were just like so completely disillusioned and disappointed by those. So it was like we felt like we had been abandoned by our group that we had just discovered like a few months earlier. But to me, those are super, super low points of this. And it was actually kind of infuriating, those two songs. But the highs of this are higher than what is tied with for number 5. And I don't even have anything to show for that, which is the Cure's self-titled album, which I just heard for the first time this week.
Wow.
And it does not get a lot of love. It is not critically
Okay.
loved. It is not loved by the fans. But wow, I was really into it this
I
week.
think there's
And
I think there's some really good stuff on there. Yeah.
it's
Here
Robert
it is
Smith.
some
There's
good
no love
stuff.
song on there, that's for sure. And there's no pictures of
No,
you on there. He
No.
no.
is pissed. He is visceral. He is get my head out of your fucking world or whatever he keeps saying.
Mhm.
There's a
Yeah,
lot of
yeah.
phrases on that
FMM.
album that he just keeps repeating.
Yeah.
I don't even know what's going on. I think it's great, and it's not as musically adventurous as like something like
No.
Fascination Street or Untitled or something like that. But it is just sounds like him just being just completely direct and pissed off, and there is no hopeless romanticism on it at all, which is my favorite part. It kind of goes back to like their first two albums for me, and the sound of that, where he's just he's not interested in making top 40 singles on that release
No.
at all. And so it has to tie, and they're totally different albums too. But
Absolutely.
the highs
And
of
I
Disintegration are better, but the lows of Disintegration are worse for me than their
Mm,
self-titled
mm.
album, so that's why it's a tie.
There's also several different versions of that self-titled too, because like the CD and the digital and like my vinyl has songs that weren't on the
Yeah,
CD.
just
There's
like we were
songs
talking about, their
that,
formats
yeah, I
never
mean,
match up. I heard
yeah,
the streaming one, so I don't know
yeah,
what the vinyl or
yeah.
the CD is like.
There's probably something because yeah, there's an extra disc I think on the vinyl. I haven't listened to it in so long, but because I have my
It's a good
mind made
album.
up about it, but I mean, yeah, it's better than some of the other ones, but
Yes, it
I know
is.
which one. I know which one.
mhm.
Don't worry, I'm not showing
Well,
it, Craig.
Yeah, there was one. There was a couple that were really, really bad. Well, not bad, but just boring. Anyway.
my familiarity with the Cure for years and years and years had simply been with the greatest hits, and that's what I had, and I would listen to that, and that was really all my knowledge of the individual albums. That was I just didn't know anything about the individual albums, and more recently I started picking up the individual releases. And my number five is actually the first one that I bought, um, which, and what I did too, because with the albums, because I am not quite as familiar with the song, all the songs in the different albums, I did this ranking thing where I listened to each song and I scored each song on a scale of 1 to 5. And then I
Wow.
just took the average score, and that is how I ended up ranking my records.
Mm.
Oh,
The ones ranking the top five for the Cure. So my number five is their debut, Three Imaginary Boys. So this was the first album I got, and there, as I look at my rankings with it, there's two songs that I think, to me personally, I think they're kind of duds, and that's the Subway song and the Weedy Burton. I don't like those songs. They don't really do anything
They're
for
basically
me.
instrumentals too.
Yeah. But there are no fives on this record for me. There's a lot of fours and a lot of threes.
There's
Uh,
fives on this
I
record.
Probably this will shock people. It'll probably shock Robert. But one of my favorite songs on here is their cover of Foxy Lady. I really like how they just completely deconstructed the song. They weren't even trying to sound like, Jimi Hendrix's
Not at
version.
all.
And I like that. If you're going to do a cover, own it,
oh yeah. Hmm.
Well,
and
we
do
had
what
talked
you
about their
want.
cover of Foxy Lady before, and I didn't. It's different than that one. The one we were talking about is apparently because according to Craig, there's two different versions of that.
Oh, okay. Well, the album
Yeah,
version
that's
on
Purple
here
Haze
is
actually.
Oh,
although I have a complaint about this album, is that there are no track listings, at least with the copy I got, anywhere. Nothing on the inner sleeve. There's nothing on the record label itself. There's all these little symbols rather than the
No, there
titles
You
of
is.
don't
the
have anything on
song.
the label?
No, it's just
isn't that what the things on the back are? Each one is a different title.
Each thing on the back is a title, yes.
right,
Uh,
but there's no clear explanation. So I ended up looking up in Discogs, the order of the songs, you know. But to me, the strongest ones on here, I really like the opener, 10:15 Saturday Night. I love the way how that one opened the album. I love the song So What. I, again, really strong. And then the title song, Three Imaginary Boys. Um, Definitely, this is a more of, it was to me more before they got their signature sound. It's much
oh
more
yeah.
of a post punk kind of record, but it is good. I mean, on my scoring system, it came out at a 3.2, and I initially liked it much more, but as I started acquiring and listening to more Cure albums, it just started, drifting drifting down in the rankings. Not that it's an awful record; it's a good record. I enjoy listening to it, but just, yeah, those really only those two songs I kind of thought were kind of a dud. The song "The Object," I gave that like a 3, and to me, it sounded, of all the songs, it sounded least like The Cure. You know, it just seemed really anachronistic. That, at least that was the note that I wrote down about it. But yeah, so that's my number 5. Not, it's a fair album, and I don't mind listening to it, but it's not one I'm going to be pulling out all that often.
What? Show me your label of that.
Let me pull it out so there's not so much glare. So, one
That's the
side
reissue, right?
is just the refrigerator.
Oh, mine is.
And then the other one is, the track listings are there, but they're all symbols.
Oh.
Like the Butthole Surfers.
Mine has the track listing.
Well,
I don't. This is a reissue from. I don't remember what year I got it. But I've had it for a
and then
long
the
time.
insert. See, the insert. Well, is actually just the inner sleeve.
Really, yeah.
And
yeah, the insert.
And all it does is it has, the information of where it was recorded, who's the engineer. I mean, that's it. So there's absolutely nothing
Your house
that came with this record that shows the track listing at all, which is very annoying.
Well, I mean, continuing on, because my number 4 is Three Imaginary Boys from 1979, their debut. And where's mine? Because I have a 1979 on Fiction. Mine actually has the track listing on it. It's not Pretty Pictures or whatever. So it's my... So I can tell you the name of the songs because they're right here on the record. But I didn't know they did that on the reissues because this is obviously all I have.
Yeah, I've never seen that.
10:15 on a Saturday night, like we're talking about openers, or I'm talking about openers because it's kind of a theme. One of their best songs ever, and oh my god, live is just freaking incredible. Like, just the drip, 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 drip. Oh God, I just love 10:15 so much. I don't. Yeah, I mean, I get Subway Song and Weedy Burton, but I don't. I kind of just think of them as kind of like just a bit of noise until the next song comes on because they're not like full length tracks. They're kind of short. Subway Song has more screaming on one version. I mean, there's like it's just there. And same thing with Weedy Burton. I don't even think it's a minute long. And
why is it there?
Because it's like we're just ending. And on mine, it actually is not even listed. I'm gonna have to, because I was listening to him streaming a lot this week, but it's not listed on here. Weedy Burton is not listed. It ends with Three Imaginary Boys.
Yeah, mine does.
And that has never, I know on my cassette tape that I had, because when I got all my Cure growing up, it was all cassettes. And yeah, Weedy Burton was not, I don't even know that was on the cassette, to be honest.
Yeah, it's not listed on mine.
Yeah, and I think that was years later that I was like, oh, that's a track, because I don't ever remember hearing it.
It's on there. Yeah.
Grinding halt, everything's coming to a grinding halt, and then it just oh my dear lord, so good. Three Imaginary Boys, good title track. It's been covered. I think I've mentioned it before. Cowboy Junkies have done it. It's incredible. I love their cover of Foxy Lady. Again, kind of that same reason. It's nothing like the original. And in a good way. Their Purple Haze, now that's a different story because, like I said, there's a different version that is better than the one that was on that compilation. But yeah, I remember when I think Shane actually got me the cassette tape. It was one of the last ones I got because it was so hard to find. And he found it at a record store. They had an import section, I'm pretty sure that's how he found it, and that was like the first time we heard it. I'd heard most of the songs from Boys Don't Cry, but there are a lot that aren't on that. But yeah, for Imagine Voice, that's some good shit.
Well, my number four is what I guess you guys have already talked about. Disintegration. I love this. I really like this. I get what you're saying, Robert. Some of the lows are kind of low, but man, Plain Song, Fascination Street, probably one of my top Cure songs. Untitled, definitely in my top five Cure songs. I absolutely love Untitled. Um, I really like this record actually. I almost put it higher, but then I pulled a couple other ones, but man, I absolutely love this. I like, it does get dissed a little bit, but it's terrific. I absolutely love it. So yeah, number four, Disintegration.
And no one has mentioned my number 4 yet, and that would be
No show.
The Top.
Interesting.
It is interesting,
Very
isn't it, that
interesting.
I would pick The
That's
Top.
interesting.
Because here's another one that doesn't. His top is bigger than my top.
As well.
Probably not.
But yeah, this one is another one that gets panned by critics, and some
does.
fans don't like this either. This
It
is a
does.
change for them. But I love the change. I think they're getting more kind of weirder and psychedelic, and the kind of the different rhythms in the songs, and you can definitely hear the drums in this. Whereas a lot of their later releases, the drums are kind of drowned out in that whole swirling kind of wall of sound mix that they've got going on. And I love how everything is a little brighter sounding in this.
And that's also the only album that Andy drums on.
This another thing that people don't like about this is who the hell are the Cure on this, because it's a lot of studio musicians, it's a lot of people being brought.
Well, Andy actually he did he was like, oh god, there was like part of the Japanese Whisper, I think, which was before that, some of the tracks off of that, which was a compilation.
Yeah.
Andy was on that, and then this is the only album that he drummed on. But he toured with them. He was part of the band.
Yeah,
you can definitely tell their drummer is a little more aggressive on this, and it's a different person. It's also a different label too. They're on Sire now, which they did the Japanese Whispers thing, which combines this as well, which is an EP, which we're not talking about because we're doing full albums. But yeah, The Walk, that was pretty cool too. But yeah, I love I talked about how he's so visceral and so angry on that self-titled album, and he's just more like frantic on this.
Yeah.
And just
very frantic, yeah.
Very just and I
It's a
love
good way
that.
to describe it.
I love that whole like feeling from him on this. I think that's where my favorite Robert Smith is not the lovey-dovey, hopeless romantic stuff, and not so much the droning kind of on and on kind of stuff, but just the more of the frenzied kind of Robert. Did I just say Robert Plant? Robert Smith.
Yes, we love Robert Plant of The Cure. There are some really great songs on there. I just felt for me as a whole, it didn't like.
No, as a whole.
I mean, you've got
Shake Dog Shake is
Shake Dog Shake, Banana Fish Bones, Dressing Up, one of my
Dressing Up is good.
favorite. Give Me It. There are some
Caterpillar.
Caterpillar, Flicka.
Right, that's about as lovey-dovey as he gets, and I still like that on here.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's a credit to that.
There's definitely some really good stuff on there. The title track just does nothing for me, but there is some really good stuff on there. Like I said, as a whole, it didn't kind of fall in line with the others.
I really like the title track on here. It's the last song too.
Yeah, last
Yeah, it's
song.
awesome.
But yeah, my number 4 is The Top.
Wow.
I was kind of surprised, but I actually listened to all of these again, with the exception of 17 Seconds, and I didn't listen to the EPs and stuff, and didn't listen to 17 Seconds, and didn't listen to Faith again, because I'd already heard those for years or whatever. But everything else I listened to, didn't listen to Boys Don't Cry again, but everything else I listened to, and I hadn't heard this in so long, and it was so refreshing to hear. I was like, wow, this is going to make my top 5, and it ended up being number 4.
Well, my number
Richard?
4 is actually a
Oops.
tie. I have a tie here, but I put them in one in number 4 and one in number 3, even though they came out with the same score of 3.9. But the reason this next one is number 4 below the other one is because of what I think are two dogs, complete dogs, on it. And the album is Disintegration. So that's my number 4. And so we've already shown it, so no big deal there. But the dogs on this record, to me, as the opening one, Plain Song, I don't like it. That was a big...
I agree. There's two dogs.
and the closing song, the entitled song, don't like that one either.
No.
Wow.
Yeah, don't like that one.
Geez.
But there are a lot
and
of good, strong songs on there. I like the love songs. I like Pictures of You, and I like Love Song. I love their simplicity, and the earnestness of those songs. It appeals. I'm an old
Pop
softie.
singles. I mean,
Yeah.
But
yeah.
it's okay. I mean, but they're pop
They
singles.
seem very.
yeah. But you remember, as I said at the beginning, my familiarity with The Cure was for
Was their
years
pop singles.
solely through the greatest hits.
Yeah.
And so they grow on you like a leech. The song Lullaby, I really like that song because of the pizzicato that's going on, and also it's lilting but sinister at the same time. It's just and I also like Fascination Street because of the bass line. I really love that bass line.
And live, it's absolutely spectacular.
Oh God, I bet it is.
It's like the highlight of the show.
I can imagine. I've never seen them live.
Oh my God! And they go for like 20 minutes. But it's awesome.
I can believe
it's
that.
Absolutely wonderful.
The song,
Definitely a band that you get your money's worth.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
They actually
3-hour
just
shows, 3 encores. Yeah.
They're going to be in Chicago in September. So.
Right. So I'm hoping they've got that ironed out with Ticketmaster so that they're not charging outrageous prices. But I won't go anyway because it's
I'm not going
United
anyway.
Center.
No, it's outdoor. It's at Riot Fest.
Oh, is that Riot Fest? Oh, that's okay. The song "The Same Deep Water as You" is another one that I really like because the percussion in that song really replicates this feeling of a storm. And then, of course, at the end of the song, you've got the sound, of a storm. What was the other one? Prayers for Rain. I love that guitar intro. And I like the way that he's equating unsatisfactory love with a drought. So the way that works into the song. Homesick is okay, but it reminded me of Bono. It just didn't seem uniquely Cure, and Last Dance was, that one was okay. I do like the drum rhythms and Close Down. That's a really good one. But yeah, like I say, those two, the opening track and the closing track, those they don't do it for me, and that's why it's at number 4. And I have another record at number 3 that has the same score.
Well, Plain Song.
Yeah, let's move on.
I'm moving on. This is the one that surprised me that it's at number 3. 17 Seconds is actually at number 3. This is the album that I have always said this is my favorite Cure album. There is no Cure album better. And just kind of going through these and looking at the tracks and listening to the tracks and kind of, all right, these are how many. It's still obviously it's in the top 3, but I was surprised. It's also when I have like 4 different versions of this. This is my original on Polygram. I'm just still baffled that it's number 3 because I like this is I've always thought this is my favorite Cure record ever. There's none better. But it is still really good in my and we did a video about this, so I don't want to talk about it
Yeah.
too much. But one of the greatest Cure songs ever. And if you've ever seen them live, this is the song you want to hear them perform live. They normally do like 13-minute versions, if not longer, of A Forest. It is freaking brilliant and
so good.
Just and you know the second you hear that but it's like you're in for a show. And it's just the lights are going, it's everywhere. Like I said, it's minimum 13 minutes, and probably like 3 of those minutes is just Robert going again and again and again and again and again, and he's louder and louder and louder. In Your House is probably would definitely be in my top 10 favorite Cure songs of all time. At Night is brilliant, and then 17 Seconds, Closer.
Wow.
So there you have it, my number 3.
Wow, I love how like Richard's doing his grading. I think that's awesome because I'm doing it completely on emotion from being a 16-year-old kid in high school in the 80s, and that's why this album is. What are we at? 3? No, 4.
Number 3.
No, we're at 3. Yeah, this would be number 3. Jesus. Would be higher, but it's not because Kiss Me, Kiss Me, Kiss Me. I absolutely adore this. This reminds me of being a young kid. It brings back so many memories, and it's absolutely terrific. This is a reissue because I had all these on CD back in the day. But Perfect Girl is great. What do we got here? I can't read this. My blind eyes. Just a terrific record. I still like Hot. I have this left over from high school. Was the little
we don't even
EP
have that
thing. Yeah, this is great. It's great. I really I listened to both this week, and it's terrific. I would have thought this would be higher, but this is hard. This is really hard with this band because I think my number 1 and 2 always are the same, but then like the whole like 4 through like 8 just probably rotate all the time. This is very difficult, but my number 3 is Kiss Me. So that's what I'm going with.
Yeah, if I did this again a year later, I might not have
the
totally self-titled one because that just took me by such surprise. I didn't expect that to connect so much. But my number 3, I originally had on cassette and then traded in the cassette years later and have the CD and didn't realize that when I got the CD, it's missing a song that was on the cassette. My number 3 is also Kiss Me, Kiss Me, Kiss Me, and it leaves off the track Hey You, which isn't a great huge song. It's kind of a fun, silly little 2.5 minute song with a bunch of horns.
That's on the EP that I just showed.
Well, it should be on the album too. And the cassette. It's just not on the CD.
It is on there, isn't it?
Because it's a double album. They wanted to make a one single CD, but of course it's on the CD now that you get with the bonus tracks and all that double CD. But this is when I discovered the Cure was on the charts with Just Like Heaven and Hot, 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 and Why Can't I Be You was probably the first song from them I ever heard. And that's the kind of Cure hit type song that I like, where they're taking typical love songs and turning them on their ear. Mm-hmm. Why Can't I Be You? You're so wonderful. You're so gorgeous. Why can't I be you? You don't expect that as the kind of the take on that. You expect, oh, I love you so much. Why can't I be you? And then Just Like Heaven, where the obsession of this fantasy person, I'm assuming, he just drowns them inside of himself. That's the kind of thing I loved about them at that time, is they took these seemingly pop songs and there's this weird edge to them, which they totally abandon with the the love song and Pictures of You and the top 40 stuff that's on later, and then that ridiculous silly ass Friday I'm in Love and all that came later. And when that was out, I had enough, and I'm like, I'm not even going to listen to them anymore, and that's why I never heard any album after Disintegration. But yeah, number 3 is this one. Not only those singles, Hot 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 and Why Can't I Be You and Just Like Heaven, but there's a lot of other great stuff on here too. And this is kind of a great in between. They change about 4 times overall their sound, and this is a great another transitional album between one particular sound from earlier and then what you're going to get on Disintegration, which is a lot of longer, droning kind of musical landscapes that you just sit back and get lost in as a teenager, when you don't have anything else going on in your life. You just have your music playing or whatever. And this is kind of a nice in-between. And this is how I discovered The Cure as far as current music. This is what was currently out. The getting the Standing on the Beach and all that was older music. But this was the one that was currently out. And yeah, that's why it's kind of a nostalgic special thing for me. But yeah, it came really out being number 3. Kiss Me, Kiss Me, Kiss Me from The Cure.
All right. Well, my number 3 had the same score as my number 4, but Disintegration had those two, to me, they were dogs. But this number 3 was consistent. This is very consistent all the way through. And it's the same one as Craig, 17 Seconds. It is a very consistent from start to finish. I mean, there are songs that are just good, but they're good. And then the only one that I gave a 5 to was, actually there were 2 of them. A Forest, I gave a 5 to, and to me, that's their signature sound.
When you
think of The Cure, A Forest, that's The Cure. But I also gave a 5 to M because I just love the swaying rhythm and beat to it. And then, all the other songs are really, really excellent to me. Overall, with this record, their music is becoming more sinister.
Yeah.
Okay, so before you had Three Imaginary Boys, and it was, like I say, it's a good album, but not very well focused, perhaps. But this one, they're coming into their own very much. So yeah, my number 3 with a score of 3.9 is 17 seconds.
Yeah, you have to be careful too with that one because as I learned, because I didn't like that at all when I heard it. It's the only Cure album I didn't have as a teenager from the 80s, and I didn't hear it until a lot later, and I streamed it. And I guess the official, I didn't stream it off somebody's random whatever. It's the official digital version, and I guess it doesn't sound that good because it all sounded horrible. To me. It sounded like bad demos.
Yeah, it did.
And I guess it really doesn't sound.
I've heard that too. That version, yes.
Well, you heard it from us. We reviewed it, and I was like, "This is terrible. Why do you guys like this?"
Same.
So I still need to get the CD or a record of that, and I would suggest people not judge it on the streaming thing because apparently,
and I don't know that I've ever really streamed that album because I have it either.
It's very echoey, and his vocals sound like he's way in the background.
I'll have to check it out. But
and I'm like, wow, this is terrible.
It's like they were
saying that I was like
recording with a cassette.
No.
But A Forest sounds fine, which is another weird thing they do. Streaming services do. They'll take like the hits and pull them from a different source.
Right.
And then all of a sudden they sound great, and the rest of the album sounds like trash. But anyway. Now we're moving on to our number 2s.
Number 2, and it was surprising to me too because I almost didn't think this would be in my top 5 either. Kiss Me, Kiss Me, Kiss Me is number 2 for me. And as I was listening to him going through, the Kiss, which is just such a, I don't know, but get it out, get your fucking voice out of my head. I wish you were dead. I'll cut up your head. Fucking. You are angry, Robert Smith, and I am living for it. That is probably why I love that man so much because I was like, I am just as angry as you, dude. Like, I am just as miserable and tragic as you are. And especially when I was a teenager. Like, I think that's why I like just gravitated. Obviously, the man's on my wall out there too. So I'm a little obsessed. Not as bad as I was as a teenager, but and then it goes into it. What's so interesting about that, you have the song that it's just like, you know, like I said, fucking I'll cut off your head, and then it goes into Catch.
Oh, I forgot about that one. Yeah.
Yeah,
Rolling
that's a
around
good
in the
song.
floors and these sounds, and I think that is what, when I was listening to it again, is like every single song is a freaking journey. It's so different from the one prior, and it doesn't sound the same. And then you've got, you know, if you know, into Torture and If Only Tonight We Could Sleep, and how it, you know, that whatever those things are called that they're playing, that I don't know. And then of course, Why Can't I Be You? That might have been one of the first Cure songs I ever heard. It was that or Love Cats. I'm not quite sure. I remember seeing the video for Why Can't I Be You, and Robert's in a freaking teddy bear outfit, and they're just kind of dancing around, and it was like right before he cut all his hair off and had his crew cut. I don't know if anybody remembers, but Robert once had a crew cut.
That's in the Hot video.
Hot. Yes. Why Can't I Be You? He has his, and then in the live,
very handsome,
wearing the orange shirt, the Cure in orange, he's got the crew cut, and that, yeah, I don't believe he's cut his hair since then, because we all know there are squirrels and
I was hoping we were going to hear that word.
Oh, you knew you were going to hear squirrels and rats and cockroaches, and
he's got moose and squirrel living in there.
He's got all kinds of things living up in that. He has probably got a family of 12. I don't know, like, I don't know. Somebody is living up in that hair. But
even at his age now, would you want him to look any different?
I kind of want him to cut his hair off.
Do you really?
I do. It's like, dude, you know what? You're in your freaking 60s. He's almost 70, I think.
I see him in videos these days, and he always looks so gracious to the audience. He is just like, he looks like he is so like thankful that
he is.
People are still into the Cure and you know, still digging them, whether it's their older music or whatever. He just looks so happy, which is odd.
That is a great thing,
because Kiss Me, Kiss Me was like kind of the album that made them kind of, I guess, in a sense, maybe the previous album, but kind of a pop sensation, you know, especially with Just Like Heaven.
Yeah.
And Disintegration was kind of his rebellion from that, even though there were some freaking pop singles off of that record. But, you know, he was freaking doing hallucinogenics and all of this crazy stuff during Disintegration. That's why it's like, whatever. But, he didn't want to be popular. He didn't want like the mainstream. But then it's like, I don't know. Friday, I'm in Love. I think you did. I think he wanted to be in the little.
I was so pissed off when that came on. I'm like, how? Yeah. Anyway,
I will say that, you know, I was
good song.
I was pissed.
It was.
I'm like, that is it. That is over the top.
But you have, and I just have.
And you like the top?
I mean, that's the thing. There are people who can do a song like that, but not the Cure.
Yeah,
you know? I mean, I was so. That was back when we were all younger, and we all expected so much of our groups, and everybody's got to have this integrity, and then there's selling out, and now that we're older, I mean, I get the whole, you know, you want more money, you want to ride it.
All bullshit.
You want the better, faster cars and the bigger, better drugs or whatever. So you want that mall money, and you're going to do a song like Friday I'm in Love.
I dislike Friday I'm in Love more now than I did when it came out.
I've always been this cynical, and I just was like, you motherfuckers.
Really? You've always been this cynical?
Yes. I remember listening to Disintegration with that group of friends, and we were like, well, maybe it's called Love Song because they're being ironic and they're making fun of love songs. And then I remember in school, his name was Phil, walking up to me and goes, it's the new fucking single. And we were like, are you fucking kidding? These guys have sold. Fuck these guys.
Oh my!
But Friday
God.
I'm in Love was like, and High too, next level. That was like unbelievable. Come on.
I just almost mentioned High, and I'm glad I didn't. Okay, so I want to talk about how beautiful you are, the track on here, because I love the story that is told in that. And I also love the line, I hate these people staring, make them go away from me. That was I actually almost got that tattooed on my back just because that was a line that I heard young, teenage Craig.
that's a hell of a tramp stamp.
And well, it wouldn't have been a tramp stamp. It would have been on my back.
Like,
Thank
what
God.
Written
I almost got
smally, so people smally is that a word? Written small, so
Like,
people would have to really
yeah,
stare at you
yeah,
to be able to read
yeah,
it.
right, yeah. And here we. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna so put that up. I am now going to get that as a.
I've given you the idea.
Thank you for making my life better.
It's not going to make your
Yeah,
life
I
better.
don't. I feel like there was one more I wanted to mention off of the. Of course, like cockatoos, so good. Ice and Shit, Perfect Girl, 1,000 Hours. One more time. It's a non-traditional love song. And that's what I love about The Cure is that for the most part, yes, we have some traditional ones, but it's very.
But that's what I was saying earlier. Is just like Heaven and Why Can't I Be You was like they always took love songs and twisted them, did them in a twisted way, and later they just forgot that and just did straight on love songs in a very seemingly calculated kind of love songs. Like we want to get on the top 40 charts with this.
Right.
Whenever I'm alone with you, you make me feel. It was just
that video is so great.
Friday, I'm Monday. I don't. Blah, blah, Tuesday. Blah, blah. Herman's Hermits wouldn't even sing that.
The Tudor estate that I want to buy, I get
Right, and I totally get that now. But as a teenager, you're like integrity is something that's laughed at these days.
It's not what you're expecting. And
but
I think that
when
was
you're
a lot with Disintegration.
these are your kings and your idols, and they turn on you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And turn towards the mall girl and say, "No, we want you now."
But I totally agree. But also, doing songs like that gives them the opportunity to make music that they really want to make. Albums that are darker and creepy. It gives them more control. Having a top 10 hit that sells millions of. So now all of a sudden they go into the studio and the record company is going to be like, "Yeah, do what you want."
Yeah.
Friday and I'm in Love. So they can make albums like and Disintegration, and you can do like stuff more deeper, darker stuff.
Yeah, but that's not the right order for that, though. They did those first.
but you can do darker stuff,
Yeah, not on their 10th album or 9th, or I lost the number.
They just
the self-titled.
I would like to do Purer Cocaine, so let's do some love songs that are going to get on the top 40. Let's make some money here.
Okay, Mikey.
Is it me?
Yes, number 2. How do you do?
I got a weird one for number 2. I want to go back to what Robert said about a gracious performer. He is so. I've seen probably at this point in my life, I've probably seen 1,000 concerts, and there's 2 performers I've seen who are so appreciative of their fans and just the gratitude that they show. And one was Robert Smith. Number 2 was Tom Petty. Tom Petty was like, I saw Tom Petty, and every time I saw him, he was on stage, just like Robert? It was like he was surprised people were actually coming to see him play. He was just so gracious, and Robert Smith was the exact same way. Very appreciative.
Much though, he does not.
Oh, at the shows I've seen him. Shows I've seen him, he's always just like walking up and like talking, like
well, he does that, but he does not really. He'll be like because he can't understand a goddamn word Robert Smith says.
Not at the outdoor festivals, but when I've seen him indoors, you can kind of understand.
Yeah, the 2 times unfortunately, I've only seen him twice.
Elvis Presley was like that too.
Yeah,
and Terry Nunn from Berlin. Those are my 2.
Yes, I saw Terry Nunn last year, and she was absolutely like that. Yes. So my number 2 is off the. It's not love this, and it came out a few years, and technically it's a comp, but it's not a greatest hits, and it's not a best of. And I think this might have been a record store day release. I'm not sure, but I play this all the time, and I loved the early Cure, and this is the Peel sessions or BBC sessions
Yeah,
from
that's actually
75 to 85.
Yeah, that
And-
counts. That's a release.
Yeah.
That's those
Yeah.
songs are not on other releases in those versions.
It's actually
I
that's not an official release though. That's a bootleg. But it's really good. But it's really good.
no, it's great,
Yeah, it's really good.
and it's got great
And
raw.
continue on.
Oh
And
my!
what did you just throw it?
Bringing up bootlegs.
Yeah, no, I'm just clarifying. I'm like,
It's
I'm not
great.
trying to like.
I'm glad
yeah,
Neil
it's
Young
not.
isn't watching
It's
this.
on. Yeah,
Beautiful gray
Yeah.
vinyl.
Shit.
yeah. Mine's on purple.
Is yours on purple?
Yeah,
it's
mine's on
wonderful.
purple,
It's
so, yeah,
absolutely
no,
wonderful, and
really,
it's great
it's really
versions.
good.
It's good. It's awesome. It's got great versions, raw early versions of the early Cure, and that's what I love. I
There's
love
a lot
early
on there
Cure.
that's not on any of the albums. There's
There's a
lot
bunch of songs
there's
that,
a
yeah,
lot
and
of-
they're
yeah,
great.
it's really good.
Yep.
Yeah,
It's
there's
only a
really-
bootleg, probably because their record label isn't smart enough to release a legitimate version of it.
Well, these have probably been released on CD, CD versions at
A
some
lot
point,
of it
haven't
has
they?
not the so I think that has some of the Pill sessions on it.
Yeah.
And so those were done as like I think there's like maybe 5 of them on there, but it's spanned I think from Three Imaginary Boys up to the top. Is that right?
I think 85.
Been a while since
So-
I played it, but I mean it's got some
It's
really
wonderful.
early raw tracks, and then there's
Yeah.
quite a few, like I said, that aren't on. Like Ariel is on there. The version of Funeral Party is really fantastic on
Funeral
there.
Party. All
Um,
Cats Are Gray.
yeah, there's
Yep. Funeral
yeah,
Party,
there's-
The Drowning Man.
Yep.
In Between Days, Close to Me.
which
Just
are
One Kiss.
quite different.
Re-
from-
Yeah. Absolutely. I love it. I
I
absolutely
need
love
to
it. It's
check
probably
that
one
out.
of
That
my.
sounds like
it's-
something I would like.
And I think it was a record store day, probably like 6 or 7 years ago.
It's 6 times the amount to buy it now than it was then, basically.
Probably. It was cheap back then, maybe $20, $25. Yeah.
Yeah, I
But
don't
that's my number 2.
know.
My number 2, it goes along with that sort of, and that is "Boys Don't Cry," which is the American debut. I'm not as familiar at all with Three Imaginary Boys, the album. I've heard that maybe once or twice, but I used to listen to this all the time because I'm an American. I should have brought my gun out. But yeah, this is. It's a few tracks from Three Imaginary Boys and then some singles on here. But wow, I always loved debut albums, and this is The Cure, back when they're very stripped down and just punky almost and new wave-ish band. They haven't kind of developed their own Cure sound, but I still love a lot of the songs on here. And I would love to hear different, like live different versions of these, but. And again, you have The Cure where the cassette, and I'm not even talking about Three Imaginary Boys, I'm just talking about the Boys Don't Cry album. The cassette has a different configuration. A later cassette has an even different configuration. The CD has a third configuration. I think the vinyl has a different, there's different songs going around, so who knows which one is correct, but this is the one I grew up with and listened to over and over again. The 1986 CD from Elektra, and somebody's in Chicago. That's why you're hearing sirens.
That would be Richard.
The
vinyl and
I'm
the
quiet in my
cassette-
neighborhood today.
The vinyl and the cassette are pretty like identical.
But the later cassette is more like the CD, except for there's like one song difference. Where one
So
song
they're like on the
because there's a
CD, if I'm-
PVC cassette and then there's an electric cassette.
Okay, but then there is also. So does that have "So What" or "Object" on it? The CD
This has So What? And I
Okay,
think the
so-
cassette has Object and a World
Object.
War, maybe?
and "World War"
Yeah,
and
the World War's
Object
not
and
on
"World
here.
War" on the vinyl as well.
Yeah, they're on the vinyl.
But Jumping Someone Else's Train, nobody's talked about that yet. That's an incredible, I love that song. And again, these are songs all about different things. They're not all just about the same thing. They're very short songs. They're very quick songs. Very accessible songs. it's stripped down young band just breaking out doing their thing, and it's
Fire
great.
and Pyro. I did not mention Fire and
Yeah,
Pyro. We learned how to
FIREINCAIRO.
spell. I know how to spell Cairo because of the Cure. Thank
Yes, and
you.
in Illinois we don't know whether to say Cairo or Cairo.
K-Row.
That's an Illinois joke. Oh my god! Don't even
I
get me
don't
started
know.
on these southern Illinois towns that take world famous cities and change the pronunciation.
Mm.
New
Do that in
Berlin.
Indiana too. Peru,
You mean Illinois?
Peru, Indiana.
God,
Peru.
we've got so many here I can't even think of them. But yeah, Cairo, Illinois.
Zoe.
But I'm gonna have to look at the city. That's hard to read. Plastic Passion is awesome, and yeah, there's 10:15 Saturday Night. We've talked about that. I don't mind Subway Song. I just think that's. I wonder how because Killing an Arab is on here too, which I've never been a fan of. But those are kind of politically incorrect now, to do the Subway Song where somebody's getting attacked in the subway. But I used to have I recorded a cassette of some of my favorite Cure songs, and on that scream at the end of Subway Song, I would turn up the record thing, so it was super loud. It would scare the hell out of people when I played that. So I enhanced the Cure on my cassette of that. But yeah, Boys Don't Cry, the CD configuration that I am most familiar with would be my number 2.
Well,
It might even be my. I had a kind of a struggle going between my number 1 and number 2, and the only reason that's number 2 is because it's not a real thing. I mean, the Cure didn't really put that out, so that's why it's number 2.
well, I think at least one of you may have mentioned this one already. It's my number 2 with a score of 4.2. It's a very solid record. There's only one weak track, in my opinion, on it. And
One
it's
dog.
still it's not a dog. It's just the weakest track.
Okay.
And it's really good. It's still really, really good. And that is Pornography. So this would be my number 2. The weakest song on here, in my opinion, is Cold. It's still a really good song, but it just, compared to the others, the Hanging Garden, I just love the drums. Oh my God, the drumming in that is just so good. The opener, 100 Years, just really, really excellent. Siamese Twins is, and I love the line in Siamese Twins, sing out loud, we all die. I mean, I just love that line.
All over that.
A Strange Day.
Is it always like this?
It's a consistent album. There's only one song on here that I gave a 5 to, and that was The Hanging Drums. But it's consistent all the way through.
Garden.
Hanging Garden, you're right. Because I love the drums. That's why I was calling it The Hanging Drums.
I got it. I felt
But
it.
yeah, this is a really good album. Just consistent and solid.
In the hanging garden.
Definitely glad I have that in there. So that's what I have to say about Pornography.
Wow.
I like Pornography too.
Yeah, I think.
Right? We
I can't believe
love
Pornography is not in my top 5.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, the album.
You Robert, you had mentioned the video of the single, right? You were the one that mentioned that, right?
Yeah,
But
the videotape.
it was called Staring at the Sea, the Images. But remember how they had like little breakouts in between?
Yeah, which is why I wish they would
remember
put that on
that.
DVD just the way it was.
Well, there's
because
that part
it was
where the
more than just a
studio and
collection of
they're like-
videos with blackouts in between each one.
Well, and remember that part where they're like in the studio and they're like do dude, and they're like they're all mouthing and they're like doing it. It was just awesome. It popped in my brain. But
Why wouldn't they put that on DVD? A lot of people I bet grew up with that.
it was on I think it was on Laserdisc.
Well, at the same
good.
time though. I mean,
Yeah.
I had a Laserdisc when I was 14 years old, 15 years old. I had a Laserdisc, and it sat on the bottom of my black and white TV. And the only reason I had it is to watch stuff in the letterbox. Anyway, I was a weird child.
Wow. Shane still has one that works.
Right here.
Yeah. So number 1, yeah, I mean, I definitely thought it would be in the top 5. I was surprised that it was maybe I wasn't surprised that it was number one, but yeah, um, Head on the Door.
I was wondering when somebody was going to show this.
Head on the Door.
I think we're all gonna.
Yeah, I mean, from the cover, I have I so this is my original. It's not in the best condition. I actually have a reissue, and it has this weird, like, almost like checkered. It's I don't like the way the cover looks. But this is actually Robert's sister. I don't know if y'all knew that, but that's actually his sister
Hmm.
Janet, who is married to Pearl Thompson, which is also in the band, who now goes by Pearl. Yeah, this is like this weird little manipulated photo and of his sister Janet. I don't know. I feel like there's more hands than one person should have, but um yeah, this is the only Cure album that I like every single song on it. And that's why I felt like, okay, as I was going through everything, I'm like, really? There's only one that I like every single track on it? And it was this. So, Head on the Door is my favorite, not 17 Seconds.
Are you going to cry, Craig?
It's just weird because it's like it's always been 17 seconds. But in this case,
I'm
Head
gonna
on the
cry.
Door.
Which
There.
one don't you like in 17 seconds?
God, let me go back to it. It was uh three. No, yeah, three.
Yeah, that was one of the weak ones for me too. Yeah.
I mean, push six different ways, which this was either right before or right after Robert was playing with Susie and the Banshees, and he also played for the band for the album Hyena. Um, Swimming Horses. You know the song Swimming Horses by Susie and the Banshees, right?
Yeah.
Listen to that again because then six different ways inside my heart. It's the same freaking piano. Dun, dun, dun. Yeah,
Gonna write
I
that
just
down.
I just caught that. I've been listening to both for many, many years, and I just caught that. But Robert actually admits that he ripped that off from Susie, but he was touring with them at the time, so it's okay,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I mean, they're
Kyoto song, The Blood. Yeah, six different ways. That's like way up there. The best, maybe is this number one? No, it's in the top five. No, number one might be a B-side. Um, Sinking is just first off, what an album closer. And I think I've mentioned I think we've talked about Sinking, or I've talked about Sinking before. That song, just I can't even talk about how fucking brilliant Sinking is. So
okay.
there you have it.
Take
My
a deep breath.
number one. This is also the first album that Boris was the drummer on. I think Boris is probably my favorite out of the drummers of the Cure. I just adored Boris, and Andy was cool as shit, but he was only on one record. So, and I think he was such an important part of the top. May he rest in peace. Yeah, but Boris just, and I mean, now Jason, obviously he's been with the band longer than Boris, but
Yeah, probably.
you know, Boris really was only three records. But yeah, I don't know. There was just something about Boris, and maybe it's because his name's Boris, and you shouldn't think there's something about someone named Boris, but there was something about Boris. Maybe I'm going to write me a poem or a song called "There's Something About Boris." So there you have it. My number one, The Head on the Door.
Yeah, it's such a great record, and like I said earlier, it's one of those ones that could have been in my top five easily. I mean, very. If we did this a year from now, it'd probably be in my top five. But I love early Cure, which I just said with my bootleg album. Well, it is a bootleg. I don't need to do that. But my number one is it's kind of a tie, but it's these two. kind of a tie. I love Three Imagine. I just love this record. I love the punkiness of it, the rawness, the carefree, like, we just don't give a shit. This is us. This is what we're writing. These are our songs. Obviously, as you get bigger and more famous, things become more calculated and more feeling. But this is, I just love the rawness of it. This album sounds like a band you would see at a beer bar in Chicago. It just, obviously in the in the early '80s, but I love Three Imaginary Boys, and Boys Don't Cry. It's because they're kind of a companion. Let's call them a companion piece for this.
There you
Just
have it.
absolutely fantastic. Obviously the single "Boys Don't Cry." Still, every time I hear it, I turn up the radio. I just do. "Plastic Passion," I love. 10:15 Saturday Night, probably in my top 3 Cure songs. It's absolutely freaking amazing. Absolutely amazing. "Object," I think we were just talking. Somebody just talked about "Object." Great song. "Subway Song," it's there. It's also on that. It's also on that BBC session. They do a version of that. "Fire in Cairo," or Cairo. That's a great song. I love that song. It's great, and the title track, absolutely fantastic. Both of these records. This is my tie for number 1, and I love early Cure. I love I know I just said it, the rawness, the we're making a record. Holy crap, we're actually making a record. And just just like, I can't even describe it. It's kind of like, we talked about the Tubeway Army, Gary Newman's first band, when we did Replicas. It's kind of that whole, just, we're doing something different, and this is what we're doing. And I love it. Absolutely love it. Those are definitely my number ones.
All right, so when I started listening to The Cure, it was cassettes, and I already showed this one, and it has all the B-sides, and I also had the cassette for "Kiss Me, Kiss Me, Kiss Me" and "Disintegration," but later I turned those into CDs, and that's why I still have all of my CDs. These are the ones that I've had for years and years and years, and I don't really see a need to get vinyl of a lot of these, but I do have one Cure album that I had to get on a vinyl record just so I could have what seemingly is like the next level of that one, and that's my number 1. And that's why I got it, because it's my favorite Cure album. It's the only one I have on vinyl, and that is "The Head on the Door." And like Craig was saying, this is the tops for me too. This is every song is different. It's an array of sounds. It's not like "Wish" or, for God's sake, some of their later ones like that 413 whatever, or Blood Flowers.
I can show that.
Blood Flowers, where every song is it's the same song over and over.
Grown now, and
my love has grown cold. We're growing apart for the 6th time. Oh, and we're on track 6. But this is different. This is an adventure on every song. "In Between Days" is my favorite album opener. Of course, I got introduced to that on the the Standing on the Beach thing. But yeah, "In Between Days" and "A Night Like This," which again, these don't even match up with cassette and CD. "A Night Like This" isn't on here. It's only on the
it's
CD.
Only on the CD. Yeah.
"Screw" is just fun with that bass line. And it's called "Screw," and it's called, then it goes into about screwing up your eyes and screwing up your face and all that. But "Close to Me" is my favorite Cure song, and I wish that the single version was on here, because that's the version I like the best, with the horns. And I usually don't like horns, but the Cure are so awesome they make me like horns. Jazz horns. That's a kind of a jazzy kind of horn sound in there, and I love it. And I wish it was on the album version, but the album version's pretty good too. But that's my favorite Cure song. That is on here, and "Sinking" is a great way to wrap things up and give you kind of a prologue. It kind of is at the same time a throwback to the past, with things like the Pornography album, where it's a little slower and droning, and you're really got a landscape thing going on, but it's also kind of a prelude of what's coming up with Disintegration and albums like that. So the Blood and is great. It's kind of It's not a right in your face. It's kind of a muted kind of song that kind of gets lost. But yeah, I mean, 6 different ways is such an interesting time
Yeah.
signature, and you cannot dance to a song like that, but it's so interesting. This album is just so incredibly interesting, and it all works. This is where it all happens. This is it. This is where everything great is represented, and it's such a crossroads for them between. I was going to say this earlier, but I didn't want to spoil this album. But this is like "Kiss Me, Kiss Me, Kiss Me" is like, a transition from this to their later sounds on Wish and Disintegration and all that. But this is the perfect Cure album to me. This is, it still has some of the stuff that they're doing, a little bit of the early more fun kind of, post-punk, if you want to call it that, stuff from Boys Don't Cry or Three Imaginary Boys. It just has, I guess to summarize it, it has all of the best elements of the Cure can be found on this album. So this is my number one.
Is it still in print on vinyl, Craig?
Yeah, this is a newer one. This is a reissue.
Yeah,
and it was.
I don't own it.
Black.
I need to.
Yeah,
that's AC/DC. But yeah, this was like
there's a Back in Black label. No, there's a label Back in Black.
This is just a regular Electra, and it was like $18.
Nice.
So
I didn't pay much for my reissue.
Sounds great, but it's your typical Electra reissue.
Yeah. Well, I'll have to get that one too. I am completely unfamiliar with the Head on the Door. So yeah, just listening to both you and Craig talk about it, it's definitely one I want to look out for.
I need to get it.
But my number one is actually going to be "Kiss Me, Kiss Me, Kiss Me," which is weird because this album is really, to me anyway, all over the place.
It is.
The first 3 sides to me are very inconsistent. Side 4, though, holy shit! I mean, every single song on that final side, Icing Sugar, The Perfect Girl, 1,000 Hours, Shiver and Shake, Fight, just boom, boom, boom. Those are all such great, great songs. And then the other the other sides have some great songs and good songs. But one of the things that kind of bugged me with some of the songs, in my notes, I wrote down horny synths. And, Robert has talked about how he doesn't like drum machines. By God, have real drums, okay? You don't need a drum machine. Drum machines don't bother me, but what does bother me, and this was something that Frank Zappa did a lot with, he would have keyboard players that would use their synthesizers to create a horn sound. Like there was a horn section. I don't like that, and they do that on a couple songs. Hey You is it's a good song, but I hate the horny synths. Like Cockatoos.
Get the CD, it's not on there.
All right.
Yeah, I get the CD, not on there.
Like Cockatoos, same thing, too synthy. And a couple of the other songs kind of bugged me too. The song Catch was kind of a low one for me because it to me it sounded like Lou Reed making a Britpop album. It really didn't sound original to me. It just but the opener, I love the Kiss.
Let's cut this bitch.
I love the snarly guitar in that. I don't like Hot, Hot, Hot because it reminds me of Another One Bites the Dust. I can't shake that out of my head when I'm listening to it. I'm going like, that's what it is to me.
I guess I never got
But to me, if you took side 4 and then you took the other great songs that I like, such as All I Want, which is really deep post-punk, Just Like Heaven, just the total sound of that song. If Only Tonight We Could Sleep, such a great song. And then maybe the Snake Pit or the Kiss. Then you've got a perfect single album of two sides. I just feel like a lot of that other stuff that's on there makes this a little bit of a bloated album, but it's still my favorite, of the um, Cure albums that I have and have listened to. But certainly, I'm going to need to listen to particularly the Head on the Door.
Head on the
I need
Door.
to check that out. And there still are a couple others. For me, I did not grow up with the Cure, so everything I'm exploring about the Cure is much later, because again my grounding is kind of the greatest hits, and I like a lot of those silly pop songs that they did.
Yeah.
And but now that I'm exploring them, I guess I don't have the emotional attachment to some songs that some of you guys do, and I listen to those songs and I'm kind of like, to me they're not that great.
Right.
But the ones where when they really get their shit together, and I love it when Robert's voice, when he soars it, when he unleashes his voice and lets it go, those are the best songs, regardless of whatever album that's going on.
I agree.
But yeah, so Kiss Me, Kiss Me, Kiss Me. That's my number one.
Yeah, another. I mean, I think I have an original U.S. pressing of it, but I think it was only in the U.K. where there was actually a third disc, which was on orange vinyl, and it was the B-sides, and that is that. So my OG Disintegration, and then my Kiss Me, Kiss Me, Kiss Me with the bonus orange disc, like. Yeah, I'm probably never going to be able to afford to get either one of them, but maybe one day.
I heard a long time ago that he originally intended it to be a 3 LP.
Yeah, it was supposed to be a triple.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's another thing with the Cure too, is that their B-sides, there's so many times that they.
Your favorite is what, Harold and June or something?
Harold and Joe, and then you're
Harold
talking about. You were talking. Yeah,
I still remember that.
Friday I'm in Love.
I pay attention.
But the B-side on Friday I'm in Love was a song called Halo that surpasses the A-side. Like, if you haven't heard Halo, definitely check it out. It is one of those, like, just tragic love songs, but also not tragic, but also it's just yeah.
And also, anyone who's watching and wants to know more about The Cure should watch Craig's videos that he posted about a year ago now.
Oh God!
I mean,
it was one of my
your
first
videos.
ones. Yeah,
And maybe we could link them down below. But those are absolutely fantastic videos from somebody who really isn't familiar with The Cure. You want to know more about The Cure? Check out his videos that he did. They're really, really good.
Yeah, I should maybe do an updated one because I've gotten so much more since then. But maybe I'll wait until I actually get my Disintegration and my Kiss Me, Kiss Me. Maybe that'll happen this year.
I mean, The Cure is such a band that everybody has their different take on and hears in a different way. Yeah. That between the four of us, their entire 80s catalog has been represented with our top fives. There hasn't been a single album that was left out.
Yeah.
90s and 2000s, not so much.
No, no. I mean, and there is
all of their 80s stuff. At least one of us has talked about one of those albums.
I think so. Yeah.
I mean, I was actually kind of surprised that Wish wasn't on my list because that was that was the highlight of when I was really, really into them. That was my senior year in high school. That was the first time I ever saw them live. And then as I was going through it, I was like, there's some really great songs on that album, but as a whole, I think it's not.
It's a little underrated by a lot of people.
It is, but I mean, I think you look at like Friday I'm in Love and Wendy Time and some of these songs that are just, I don't know, cry for a hit single. doing the Unstuck. I mean, they're not terrible songs, but it's just kind of like, am I pushing too hard trying to, I had this with the last record. I had, Just Like Heaven. I had, Love Song. I'm trying to recreate those. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what I didn't like, is that they got the Just Like Heaven, they were able to break through with that on the top 40 charts, but it still was The Cure, because it still is kind of a like I said, like a twisted kind of love song. It's not a straight ahead love. I mean, he said, I'm assuming that the Just Like Heaven thing, he's talking about a fantasy that basically he just gets overwhelmed by and drowns himself.
It's kind of was, from what I understand, it was like his song to his wife Mary. That's actually, and that's her. That's if you've ever seen the music video, there's a lady dancing on the cliff with him. That's his wife in the video.
But then it starts getting more and more straightforward, to the point of 1960s silliness with Friday I'm in Love, and I think it sounds very calculated, and it was a real turnoff.
There's also some brilliant songs on there. You have Trust and Apart, and some of those deeper, darker tracks from the Edge of the Deep Green.
Well, it was like Mike was saying, when they were able to, they get these big ass singles and make a bunch of money, they can use the rest of
the record company's going to
get you.
It's a very Doors way of approaching an album,
Yeah.
You have your hit singles, and then you have your whacked out 11.5-minute songs all on the same album. So that is our top 5 of The Cure. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you...
that was fun.
You maybe can relate to some of this, or maybe even learn something about The Cure, or maybe if you didn't have a lot of The Cure, maybe you're enticed to go get some of The Cure. But please leave in the comments what your favorites are, or maybe least favorites. Have we talked about my least favorite? I don't even know. I mean, they're...
413 Dream.
I don't like being negative.
413 Dream.
413 Dream.
It's just, it's pedestrian.
As Mike would say, garbage.
We have to make an album where The Cure, let's get
Hot
this
garbage.
knocked out. So
garbage.
I got to go to the grocery store. Let's knock this album out, type of thing. I got to pick up some cat litter.
Was that their last album?
That's their last album. That is what 2001 is when, no, it was like 13 or 14, I think, but it's a long time ago.
Yeah. So thank you so much for watching. In the next video, we will just stick to one album, which is Johnny Flynn's album, Alacrum, I think it's called.
Alarum.
That'll be fun. You'll definitely want to stick around for that. So thank you so much for watching. We are the Vinyl Community Guncles. Once again, I'm Robert Fitton, along with...
Richard at Calvin Mazoo.
Craig's Vinyl Plethora.
Mike at Hubtunes.
Thanks again for watching. We will see you again, or you'll see us again next week.
You will.
And we promise 1993 is coming up.
It's coming.
2 weeks. Yes.
Yeah.
It's a big year. It's got a lot of music.
It's taking weeks to
We need to do it justice.